Hi, and welcome to another episode of If You Get Your Fingers Smashed in a Lift, the Lyft driver just laughs and drives away.
Oh,
In
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 5D.
5D. True
I feel like I'm
story,
missing
ripped from
something.
the headlines.
Yeah, you did not mention that he laughed at you.
He didn't, laugh out loud, but he said, "Oh man, I'm sorry," and then drove away. Like, like that. Like, not outright laughing, but he was laughing.
Sometimes it's funny to laugh at other people's pain. It's human.
Yeah, the most interesting part about that story, honestly, is we traded Pokemon
With the Lyft driver?
with the Lyft driver. Yeah, he had something I didn't have, and I had something that he really really wanted. I had extra unknowns, so
Oh, yeah.
I gave him an unknown, and he gave me one of them fancy Marowaks.
Oh, the Alolan Marowaks?
Yeah, haven't had a chance to get one, and I was pretty happy until I slammed my thumb into the fucking car door. I was feeling mighty depressed about that. I didn't go to work today because I couldn't put my pants on, couldn't work my thumbs for the buttons and shit. I need like hook pants.
That is
You
a
need an
terrible
adult to
excuse
take care of
not
you.
fucking go to work. Oh, I hit my little thumb.
No, well, when you're typing all day and you can't, and basically, yeah, I think I fractured it. I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. It's actually on ice right now. But-
Yay.
Hooray.
But no, hey,
Hey.
I was coming right back from watching Hellboy, though. That was like my punishment for going to see this movie, I feel.
Yeah. That was another yay moment.
So how was it?
It didn't look good.
You know what? I'm very conflicted because I really like the Del Toro movies.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, and I think we've mentioned this on this podcast before, but you and I both have complete Hellboy runs. So it's not like we're, just fans of the movie. Like we enjoyed the movies, we've seen the movies, we own the whole run of the comics.
yeah, and I even have most of BPRD. I'm still looking to complete that series as well, and
Right.
some of the auxiliary ones. I'm actually looking into start grabbing the trades for BPRD 1942. I think is what it is.
The Lobster Johnson book.
I have that. I have the original trade of that. Yeah, I even have the Batman one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But anyways, so the reason I'm conflicted is I really like the Del Toro ones, but we all knew that they were kind of a big departure from the source material.
I mean, they were and they weren't at the same time. They weren't stories from the comics, but they felt like they could have been, in my opinion.
Yeah, but what they did though is they took characters and then they kind of
Yeah.
changed their personalities all over the place. Which
Yeah.
again, I still like those movies. This one felt a little bit more akin, like they tried to do more source material, but also not. So they took some stories almost completely ripped out of like what they call the tales. Like when it first started, Hellboy wasn't really a ongoing series. It was just a bunch of little fragmented tales that ended up getting put into volumes. Like I remember it was called like the Hanged Man and Others or something like that.
Yep.
So they did a lot of that. It felt really rushed when the entire first like 2-3 minutes are nothing but talking exposition. Weird Tales that it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was weird. Like the first 2 minutes, if not more, was just narration and not even talking about the world of Hellboy, talking about this particular story within the Hellboy universe, talking about the witch Nimue and whatnot and all that. They did a very similar thing in Golden Army when they talked about like the Hellboy 2, the prince and where the elves went and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they did a very similar thing, but there it was it was kind of creative, and they did it in this little like claymation kind of thing, and they worked it into the story where he's being told a bedtime story, right? So it was part of it. In this one, it was like text at first,
Oh, they tried to do like a Star Wars crawl?
kind of sort of like that, and then
This is exclusively good to Star Wars and to nothing else.
So they did a text on the screen, and then they also did some scenes. It was, oh my god, the acting was so terrible though. Like, you had Mila Jovovich, which generally she's, I mean, I'm not gonna say she's like an Oscar winner, but she does okay.
I like Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, but it just felt like none of the actors believed any of the stuff they were saying. And to be fair, this is a Hellboy movie, so they're all throwing out terms and like the dark gods of the Ogdru Jahad and all that shit. But it just felt it did not feel like the actors were even believed it. So I had an issue with the opening, and this thing, it was rated R. And I mean, like, it tried really hard to be rated R. It was so gory.
And so that was actually from the trailer that was my problem with it, because the comics were never that. You know what I mean? Like, that exists in comics, that over-the-top gore, over-detailed, like, overblown, over-the-top, big, big, big. That was never Hellboy. Like, Hellboy never really did anything that was hard rated R. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, not hard rated R, maybe a soft R, but no, I agree. There was a lot of gore to the point where I'm just like, what is this adding? And I don't like even schlock horror. I'm not into it.
Right.
So for this, I was just like, what are you adding to it? I don't know. I liked it. I liked the story. I liked it as much as it felt out of place, or it's not cartoony. I just felt that the writers, and they dedicated to showing and doing some of the shit from the comics, where I'm like, yeah, this normally doesn't fit in a live action film, but the comics, the problem was they tried to fit so much into one film. It felt super rushed. Like, the story that they tell for this film takes place in, like, probably either an entire trade paperback or two. But the trade paperbacks are already a bunch of single issues and a bunch of other collected material. So to try to squeeze all that into a film, it didn't feel it did not.
Honestly,
feel like
a lot of times when I watch like comic movies, comic shows, I often find myself thinking like, why don't it does not always work. It is not 100% rule, but often I'm like, why don't you pace this out one trade paperback per season?
Yeah.
You could, with a lot of these properties, you really can like stretch, of course, add a little bit. It's a visual medium, it's kind of different. You always need to add a little something to pull it out. But I never understood the big sweeping changes, and I never understood like the cram it as much as you can, go fast. No, these things work because they kind of go slow, and doing a trade paperback per season paces you out really well. And again, it's not always accomplishable. That is not 100% rule. But it is for a lot of the things I've seen.
It's because it's a cash grab.
Well,
Right?
actually,
They're just doing it because they know they can slap it together quick and make money, whether it's good or bad. But it's
Yeah.
I think for this one, it might be the other way around. It really felt like a passion project, and they weren't.
They got like too excited.
Well, I think they probably were like, well, we're probably not going to get money to make a second one, so let's do as much as we possibly can. I don't
That's
know.
kind of shitty because that still hurts you in the fact of like getting your money, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
terrible
but
reviews, people are going to want to watch it, and then you're not going to have funding regardless.
I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, if I only get one shot at doing this, I'm gonna fucking I'm doing it all, right? That kind of thing. It felt a little like that. I think my biggest criticism is forget the name of the actor, but the actor that plays Hellboy, he's the guy from Stranger Things. His portrayal of Hellboy, huh?
David Harbour.
Yeah. He looked the part, but I don't know, just the way he played it, it was super fucking whiny. And I don't remember Hellboy being whiny. I remember Hellboy being like he gets disillusioned in the end, and just like he seems weary in the comics.
Yeah.
But not whiny. And this Hellboy came off as whiny. And that I didn't like. Like, literally a bunch of times they had to tell him to just shut up and be a man. Literally, his dad, the professor, was telling him to shut up and be a man.
He's like, I'm not a man, I'm a demon.
Yeah, things
He
like
went off
that.
and cried.
It was
Damn
very,
pancakes.
it was very much that.
He was like my favorite Disney princess, Kylo Ren.
Yeah, right. Nice. The visuals were great. I liked them, minus the gore here and there. I think they did enough of the magic stuff where it worked, and they had man, I forget what his. See, I'm terrible with actors' names, but the Asian guy from Hawaii Five-0.
Oh,
Yeah, one guy. I know who. No, I don't know who you're
No,
talking
no.
in that?
Yeah, he was in that. He's he so he speaks with a British accent, and I don't know where he's originally from, so I might just be talking shit, but I feel like sometimes he lost the British accent, and I thought that was kind of funny.
What was his name in it?
Stop being British.
In a major something, at least in Hellboy. He's one of he's part of M11, which is
Daniel Day Kim.
Daniel Day Kim, yeah. Not to be confused with Daniel Day Lewis.
Right.
But yeah,
Day
so,
is spelled D-A-E. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think it's Day.
I'm pretty sure it's Daniel Day Kim. He was in Hawaii Five-0. He was on Lost.
Yeah.
So he's been in a few things. I don't think he did a terrible job at acting. I don't know if it was during editing, but he was really intense the whole time. And I know why he was that way, because the character he was playing, and this is a spoiler for folks who are going to see the movie. In the comic book, he's the were-jaguar. Do you remember that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember that
No.
character? Yeah.
No.
So he played that guy, and in the comic book, he's super intense and kind of doesn't really get along with the rest of the team at first. So he just came off as dickish, his portrayal of him, but it was okay. The movie was a bit of a mess. Like, I'm gonna probably buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, if I had to rate it out of, I don't know, 5 Wild Hunts, I'd probably give it a 2.5, 3 at the most. Like,
No, there were things to enjoy, but not as many as there were things to not enjoy.
Out of 5 Wild Hunts, you'd buy it on DVD and not Blu-ray.
no, I definitely buy it on Blu-ray. Some of the visuals were awesome, but I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. Oh, and I just realized I actually had a pretty cool. There you go. I had a pretty cool graphic for it that I never put up while I was talking about it. I'm not sorry.
Good job.
I'm not sorry.
Glad you're here.
We're professionals.
Oh yeah, that's what we are. I wonder how much money it's made. Let's see.
$8.17.
Ooh, that's better than last time.
Ooh. Okay, so production budget was $50 million, which is not very much.
No.
And they've only made $19 million back.
Ooh.
Ugh, this sucks because this is gonna burn Hellboy for a while. I still think this should have been done as a TV show. I feel like Netflix could have done a really good job with this one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's what happens.
Also, releasing it this close to like Easter weekend was gonna get people all uppity.
Yeah.
Oh well. Actually,
I don't feel bad.
there is another. Speaking of Netflix, there is a Netflix show that I want to talk about with you guys as well because it just released its season 2.
Yeah, let's only talk about bad news today.
Yeah, Bonsai. Tell us about Sabrina Part 2.
Sabrina Part 2. It's not as good as Sabrina Part 1.
Oh, wow. What a review.
No, I can't honestly put my finger on exactly what it was. Something about the writing just felt off. And I didn't really look into it. Maybe they changed head writers or changed staff or decided to go. I don't know what it was. I didn't look at what it was. Me and my wife both sat down. We watched it. Neither one of us enjoyed it. We noted what our biggest down note was, though. Like the worst part for us. Episode 4 was so bad. They try and do this really Tales from the Crypt, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone kind of episode. A tarot card reader comes to town and reads everybody their fortune, and it all leads to misfortune kind of thing. Like, if you make this decision, your hands will be cut off, or whatever kind of thing. The problem was there was a few premises it sets up that don't go away because... So, in instance, I'm sorry, spoiler, fuck you, sorry. So
Sorry,
He's
fuck
not
you, though.
sorry.
yeah, I guess I'm sorry, but also like I'm not. So one of the girls she's going blind. She's got an eye thing and she's going blind. So she can elect to have this surgery and have her church pay for it. Her dad's like, the church will pay for it. She's like, yeah. And then she ends up going to an insane asylum after a while because she's like, she's volunteering to help the blind to give back. That's what it was. I hated this episode. I'm sorry I didn't commit it to memory as well. She's going back to help the blind to like give back after she gets her sight back from this surgery. It works. But then the girl she's helping is like, those are my eyes. Your dad paid money to the church, and the church took my eyes and gave them to you. Murder.
Okay.
So he makes the decision like, I guess I'm not going to have the church give me those eyes. But she even mentions that her dad has like used the church for money before. So it calls into question, were these other horrible acts of cruelty that the church did? And he's like a part of this church regardless of this decision, but we also never come back around to this. So we kind of establish the premise that her dad is part of some church that'll like kidnap people and rip out their eyes. But we're like, no, don't worry about that. It was just a fun, silly thing. But it wasn't, because it was the decision she made didn't push them into that church. He's still there. It's still a thing that they'll do. And we're just not going to deal. And there were a few things, and like some of the other ones that it sets up, where it's like, okay, but that's still a thing. You're not saying that that's a cause. That's just a thing we find out. It doesn't work. The whole episode none of it works. None of it. It's very over the top. It's very cheesy. And maybe they were trying to capture that from these old shows, but it doesn't do it in any sort of charming or interesting way. It just plays as cheesy. Like, think of somebody today doing a version of the Adam West Batman, but it's not ironic. It's not meant to shed a light on that. Like, they're just doing Batman era Batman.
Okay, like super on the nose, kind of.
No, because it's not being on the nose. That's just the writing. That's just what they're doing. It's just 1970s Batman.
Okay, so that was episode 4, but what about the rest of the season?
The rest of the season just kind of falls flat. The villain is just the same villain, still being evil. The devil's in it more, but he like talks a bunch now. And he's like a goat puppet. It's not. The first season was really interesting, and it brought a lot of the table. It really showed some different variations on characters that you were used to if you were a fan of the original. It hit on a lot of modern sensibilities and topics. It felt fresh, you know? It felt like, okay, this isn't your old Sabrina, but what's here is still fun, new, interesting, and it's a great way to use these characters. This new season, all of it felt like a cliche. all like to the point where I'm looking at my wife going, like repeating lines before they happened, you know, the kind of thing where they're going, no, not that, and you can call that they're going to say exactly those words before they say it, and it happens a bunch. It's not like a couple of times, and it's not cheeky and fun. They're actually delivering really cliche, overdone premises and lines.
I think my because I've seen about half of the second season. I think my where I agree with you completely is where, you know, spoiler, Sabrina and Harvey are about to hook up again, and that whole conversation, if one person would have just been like, stop, let's just talk about it, that trope needs to fucking die.
Yeah.
Everybody is mad. It's just a misunderstanding. It's because someone is outraged. I'm like, that's not how normal human beings talk. And there's some human beings that do that. You don't associate with them because they're toxic and stupid.
That's the rarer person than it is the more common reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you guys obviously still love each other, so maybe you just have a conversation instead of these like half statements and crying.
Even that
and
happens a
outrage.
few other
Oh
times
my
throughout
God.
the season. She does the same thing with her friend. She does the same thing with her new boyfriend. She does the same thing with her aunt and with her cousin. And I get it's a common writing thing. But when they were doing it in season 1, they used it to their advantage and they used it well. Where here, it just feels like they're just going to keep... Like, everybody's just so emotional right now.
Well, in
what I mean?
season 1, a lot of that had to do with the fact that her friends didn't know she was a witch.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, it makes sense. I understand what you're doing. But now that it's out in the open, like, she even attends things secretly and doesn't tell them about it. And I'm like, what do you earn from that? Right? Like,
Right.
her whole shtick has been, oh, I don't want to put them in danger because of who I am now. It's like, but you already went. Why not tell them that you were there, right? Like, what does it fucking matter?
We also keep almost wanting to give her friends abilities and powers that matter.
Yeah,
and
like,
then just not quite doing it.
well, one of her
It is
friends.
bigger this time, and they help a few times.
Yeah. Well,
But think about Buffy. When they gave Willow magic powers, like, that shit was really useful. You know? People became useful in Buffy. In this, we're giving them things, but they're still not as good. Don't worry about it. It's just to keep them around.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 separate powers right now, right? There's, well, technically 3, but there's 2 main ones. There's the curly-haired
Cunning.
friend who's what is she? She's psychic.
No, it's her curly. The one who's going blind has a thing called the cunning, and it's
Yeah.
more just
She sees
premonitions
flashes
almost.
of the future. Yeah,
She gets premonitions.
and then
That's a Raven.
yeah, right. And then Susie
Shut up.
slash what is she going by?
I don't have
Nate?
anything with this conversation. I had to do something.
I did see that Disney one though.
What?
So wait, and the other friend was with Susie, and now it's with Nate. Is that correct? Am I saying that wrong?
Thought it was like Thad.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, sorry.
I think it's Daniel.
She changed her name. She changes her name.
Yeah, he changes her name.
He changes his name.
Okay, she goes to
Hey.
he.
Whatever they want to identify as, that's all cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the plot line.
Yeah,
is
that's the plot
She
line.
comes to terms with what her identity is, which
Yeah.
is a he, and it's Nate, it's Thad. She has a generic white guy name.
Yeah,
she
pretty
goes for
much.
a real white name,
Yeah,
like upper class white, not like
although-
Bob or Jeff. Like,
I am gonna say that the whole locker room thing felt forced
yep.
on that.
Yep.
Like the rest of it, I thought they were doing well. Like they eased her into it, and they weren't. At that moment is when it felt like they kind of tokenized him,
Yeah.
and I felt uncomfortable because I'm like, why would you do this, and why? Like, this isn't the Midwest you're talking about where this kind of shit would be believable. Like, it just completely uncomfortable.
I don't know, man. Even here in California, there's a lot of that around here.
Well, let me describe
pretty
the
bad.
exact scene. She has now decided that she's a he.
Okay.
Has changed the name. Now decides to change clothes for sport, a men's team sport in the men's locker room. Okay, that happens. We've seen that all over the place. All of the boys on the team decide to, and I mean every single one, decide to sit there and watch him change to check out the goods. Like, we're not even talking a couple of boys being dicks, because that's believable. Every high school has those assholes.
Right.
It's the entire team, and it seems like the entire student body. Almost
Except
like
Harvey.
Except Harvey, right, because he's...
It's everybody but Harvey.
Yeah, and it felt super forced. That's all it was. Like, forced, like, uncomfortable. Like, you're almost making fun of this, not in a good way, not in a bringing something to the conversation, more like you're forcing it, and
it's more like, look how shitty everyone is.
Yeah, it was just, it felt done not correctly. Like, I had no problem with any of that until that point, and I was like,
And honestly, though, now that you're pointing that out, that's kind of the theme in both worlds. So we're supposed to believe that Sabrina's coven, like all these Satan-worshipping witches, are like dark, evil people. But most of the time, the background characters really aren't that bad. Like, they're always like, praise Satan, but they're not like, now let's go murder all the children in this orphanage.
yeah,
Like, they mostly just say praise Satan, and all the people at Sabrina's school are just actual pieces of shit.
yeah, there's definitely that. So minus a couple, like,
I'm not saying that's a good or a bad
No,
thing. That's just
it's
a
like
thing that I'm
they
noticing
flip-flop.
right now.
so like in the in the Unseen Academy of the Unseen Arts, which is her magic school.
Which is a super unoriginal name, and it was unoriginal in the first season, but now that we're just being unoriginal in our writing, it's bothering me. It's like Unobtainium and Avatar. Fuck you. Try. Put 9 seconds into that, you fuck. Sorry, go on.
Well, anyways, so they literally have an entire day where they just eat a motherfucker, like cannibalism. That's just the thing they do. But the rest of the time,
Season 1 though, wasn't it?
yeah, that was season 1. But the rest of the time, they're pretty chill. They go to school. They teach them things. You know, the subject matters are like dark magic, but that's cool. At the other high school, they literally like molest, rape, and like cause severe physical injury to each other. But then
and like the teacher's back at the teacher's like, it's fine, that kid's just a pussy.
yeah, like they are horrible people. But every so often they just like have, you know, blood drives and like, you know, they do good things. So it's completely opposite. Like, these are horrible people that, you know, they're actually okay, except for that, you know, whole cannibalism bit. And these guys are just
the wedding day. Sorry, there was 2 different orgies in the wedding coven, or there were 2 different orgies in the coven this season. One is at weddings, and then one is just once a year. So once a year, all the high school kids have to go out in the woods and pair off and fuck for the devil.
I mean, that doesn't sound bad.
Like, you draw lots. This is how absurd this is. At one point, once a year, all the seniors got to draw lots. You just draw a fucking number from a hat and go fuck in the woods. And then on wedding days, the husband can fuck as many ladies as he wants before he gets married. Because it's his last hurrah. Also, depending on
not all the time.
you can just have multiple wives later. Because also, fuck you.
yeah.
No, one of the big things this season was they're kind of tackling the misogyny in their order, to the point where even the other Satanists are like, yeah, only that guy's a misogynist.
Yeah.
The rest of us don't suck quite even like the eyeless monsters are like, nope, he's a dick. Like, nobody likes that guy. Which was also kind of like, I guess they were just kind of being like, hey, these guys are Satanists, but they're not monsters. This is like, did you guys ever read the DC Marvel crossover Joker starts working with the Red Skull until he figures out that the Red Skull's a Nazi, and he's like, sorry, I thought it was just a theme. Now that I actually know your white pride, I'm not this much of a dick. And the Joker quits and leaves. So I'm not working with that guy because fuck that, I'm not in. I always just kind of liked that there was this line in the sand. I guess that's kind of what this show is doing too. It is totally drawing this line. Like, we're evil, but we're inclusive, damn it.
Yeah,
We
no,
kill everyone.
it's just kind of funny though, because at a certain point, like, you're not including me because I'm a girl. Like, no, we're not including you because you're half human.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that has reminded me though, one other thing I really didn't like, and my wife was actually the one to really point this out. So the Coven of the Unseen Arts or whatever, they're this Satan worshipping, we love the devil, we do work for the devil, devil's gonna hook us up in the afterlife, yay the devil. Except every time the devil shows up and actually tries to get them to do something, they're like, we can't do that, that's evil. Every time.
Okay.
Even at the end, there's like a showdown between different factions of all the Satanists. And like all the kids are like, whoa, man, we're not into all this evil shit going on. You sold your soul. You have class about yay the devil. But then once real black magic and like people die, bro, and evil spells, a bunch of them are like, not cool with this.
Well, that's one part that's really weird of the writing, and I didn't mean to go through a whole deep dive, but
No, we're doing it now.
yeah,
Klops at least looks interested now, where he's like,
well,
he wants to hear more. You can
if
see it
you
on his
notice
face.
their whole rhetoric.
I was like coming in and out before, and I'm like, I don't have anything to add to this conversation. I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Let's see what's happening.
So their whole like rhetoric has been that, you know, that the normal church, normal religion lies, and that the devil's actually not that bad of a guy.
Yeah, he's a
Right.
bro.
Yeah,
He's a goat head.
and so they keep saying,
He's like goat head.
they keep talking about how they're not evil. Like, they've dropped many times how they're not evil, that they're just painted as evil, right? But that's when you got all these things like, you know, the witch that eats children. And
Yeah, you have like annual cannibalism and fucking mass orgies all the time. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's evil,
I don't
but I'm
think
saying you at
orgies-
least got to be ready for some fucked up shit.
But yeah,
No,
it's just
I'm
one of
ready
those
for an
things where,
orgy
like,
just about any time, and I don't have to do fucked up shit to get there.
You're kind of a fucked up guy who watches a lot of fucked up shit. You're ready for fucked up shit. That's
I'm
what I'm
also
getting at.
very centered, and I preach a lot
But-
about positivity to people.
No, I'm just saying you're prepared for fucked up shit. These guys regularly do fucked up shit, but then once fucked up shit shows up, they're like, whoa, 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 not
'cause
okay.
They haven't been taught.
well,
And-
and
But
look,
they have.
here's the they have. Here's another thing that really kind of threw me. The end of the first season, like, these people have been summoning demons to play pranks on each other and shit like
Yes!
that for fun, and all of a
Like
sudden,
elder demons, dude.
Yeah.
Like Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, was there just to fuck with somebody.
and then a couple witches ghosts show up, and everybody freaks the fuck out, and they can't protect against them. I'm like, you literally waved your fingers and banished a demon back to hell, and now there's little ghosty, and she's gonna fuck up your shit. What is happening?
The tone is just like,
Well, as
That-
far as summoning,
we're weak,
there
we're
is a
strong.
difference between summoning and
You
then
know,
like having an apparition show up.
I get you're trying to rationalize this. Trust me, when you watch it, you're gonna go, these don't add up.
But first of all, you've already made your first mistake. I'm not going to watch it. Two, I believe that there's nonsensical because even in the first season, like I'm sure, okay, sure, she's a witch. She doesn't want to tell her friends because it endangers them. But I've seen this plot line, and I know that if you just fucking speak up, everything will be better. And I guess by the end of the first season, that happened. And then she makes the same mistake in the second season, from what I'm gathering from you guys. So I
Well,
mean,
the second season escalates it because everyone makes mistakes.
I'm just saying that, like, even when I was like watching this, I was like, you should either not have any relations with any humans, or you should just say fuck it and break your truths and just bring them part of it, right? Like, this is me. Guess what? I'm a witch.
Hey, at least in the old Sabrina the Teenage Witch show, if a mortal found out about your secret, they'd turn into frogs. So there was like an actual like clear and present danger.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get that, but I'm just saying that like
We've
seems like
spent
90% of her problems due to lack of communication
Yeah,
skills.
I feel like
And
that's
that-
most teenage shows nowadays.
That is what is the problem and why I'm like, I don't care about it.
That's all fair, but we have spent way too long
on Sabrina.
Which
Give it a
Oh,
rating.
God.
Give it a fucking rating.
Yeah, give it a rating for season 2.
2 out of 10.
Jesus.
I
All right.
really, really did not like this season.
Okay.
I'm
all
not saying
right.
that I won't give a third a try because, sometimes you can figure out the balance between the two and come back, but I'm not going to do a whole season of 3 if it doesn't come back strong.
The Christmas special really hyped me for this next season.
I liked the Christmas special.
And then this was such a letdown. Anyways, all right, moving on. Actually, there is something that we hinted that we were going to talk about that we should probably talk about. Pet Sematary.
Oh, I thought it was something else. I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. So I watched both the original and the, I guess, reboot, remaster. I don't know what it is.
Remake.
The sequel, prequel,
I think it's a remake.
of Pet Sematary. And I have to say that I was kind of disappointed with the new one for a lot of reasons. Mostly
in a negative mood today.
Mostly because it lacked a lot of the tension that the first one had. The first one was like going back, like watching it, like I hadn't watched it in a long time. Watching it, it was suspenseful. I was like on the edge of my seat, like watching. I was like super tensed out. I was like, wow. And then like when it had whatever jump scare or whatever plot point that was happening, it seemed to fill out really nicely. That's not to say that all of it was good in the original, right? I mean, they didn't explain a lot of things, and they tried to explain them in the new one, which wasn't bad. It wasn't
So for
terrible
someone
that
who's
they
never
tried.
read and or seen it, can you run me through the plot?
The plot line is basically a father refuses to let go of his dead son and buries him in an Indian burial ground that makes him come back not as themselves and murders people.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I knew that there was a resurrection component.
Yeah, it's Indian burial grounds. And matter of fact, if we're going to get into it, which I'm going to, is going to be a spoiler thing because I really don't think you're missing anything from not watching it. If you really want to go watch it, go watch it. It's fine. But it's the Spirit of the Wendigo is what it is, which I really like. I like things about Wendigo.
Interesting. That's new.
Well, that's actually what it was in the original. That's what they meant by the ground is sour. The Indians stopped burying their dead there because the ground turned sour. And it's because the Spirit of the Wendigo inhabits that place.
Oh, and it started eating the corpses or something?
Well, the Spirit of the Wendigo does lead to cannibalization.
Yeah.
And so these things that are reanimated corpses are pretty much cannibalizing as well.
Okay.
What I didn't like about the first one is if you go all the way through it, basically the main character, Doc, makes the same mistake 3 fucking times. And it's kind of lame. He buries the cat out there, cat comes back, it's not the same. Buries his kid out there, then he has to kill a kid, and he killed his wife. But this time it'll be different if he buries his wife out there because his wife just died. And the ending scene for the original is basically him making out with his gross dead wife because she's like bleeding and pussing everywhere, and she stabs him, and that's it. That's the end of it. Overall, it is good suspenseful, and even though I've told you basically everything about that movie, it's still a good watch. I still recommend watching the original. It was a good horror film at the time, and it holds up today as far as suspense goes.
But that kid is creepy as fuck. They cast the perfect kid for that old movie.
Actually, I find him really cute and adorable, and they actually
You
pulled
would.
him off really well in the reboot. The remake, they have a kid that seems just like the original Gage. He's very
That's
cute,
cool.
and he's very kind of like there, right? You know, the problem.
The scenes where Gage is being evil, that kid is fucking terrifying.
Actually, him jumping down from the attic is one of the fucking funniest things ever because it's just this ragdoll of a thing coming down, right? Going, ee! And it was funny to watch. In the sequel, though, or the reboot, they changed some things. First of all, it's not the little boy that dies; it's the little girl,
Right.
right? Which, okay, sure, I'll buy it. The other thing that they change is that they try to explain what the kind of ground is, but they don't really talk about it. They just show some things that shows like the spirit of the Wendigo. Like there's a Wendigo, and then there's like this swampland, and it was like Native American. They don't say anything about the Native Americans. Like I don't think the Micmacs were the original Native American tribe there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sound real.
Right. It doesn't sound really mean. You could have given credit to the Native Americans that actually inhabited the land that were there, as far as I'm concerned. The other thing is that, like I said, it lacks a lot of suspense. It does a lot of the things that modern horror does, where it tries to have this suspense, right? You know, but it just feels so fake. It doesn't feel like real suspense. There were a couple scenes that I can recall, like there's a part where the doc tries to help this guy that gets hit by a truck originally in the original one. This one, he gets hit by a car or something, and passes away, and his spirit comes back to help him to pretty much not go to the Indian burial ground and bury things, and he doesn't listen. Either movie.
Right.
In the first one, he just shows up and like wakes him up out of bed, and like he's like, "What?" And he's like, "No, come on, doc," and like brings him through the whole house and down to the pet cemetery. And this one, he wakes up and he's in a dream sequence, and he goes out to the pet cemetery, and instead of like him kind of revealing himself right away, he goes towards the barrier, is what it's called, and like grabs his arm, and it's supposed to be like a jump scare thing, and I was like, what the fuck does this add? This doesn't add anything. It wasn't really that scary. The part that was tenseful was later on. He's down in his basement, and there's this like groaning sound coming from like this doorway and stuff, and it leads him back to Pet Cemetery. It's another dream sequence that happens. But up until that point, it was very suspenseful and actually really nice. The other part that I liked about the new movie, was that it wasn't him making the same mistake 3 times. No, the creature itself was trying to kill them, to bury them out there, to make more of them. And that's what it does. Like, he reveals that he buried his daughter or whatever, right? Because the wife comes home, just like in the original movie. And she's terrified of it, mostly because of her experience with her sister that she had, which was a plot point that wasn't until much later in the original, but they started off really early and didn't do anything with it in this new one, really. It kind of just like floated around and was kind of a thing, but kind of wasn't. So it didn't really work out. The other part is that Judd, which is the neighbor across the way that you get to know really well in the original, who knows all of this like lore and stuff
It was
about this area.
John Lithgow in this one, right?
It was, and he does a really good performance.
Lithgow's good, yeah.
Yeah, he is, and he does a wonderful performance as Judge. He was given kind of a crapshoot, but he kind of made it work, right? In the original, Judge confesses to Doc that someone did try to bury someone in Pet Cemetery, and it didn't end too well. It was the father that lost his son in the war, and in the end, they decide to burn the house down with the creature in it, and he pulls his dad back into the fire, and they both die. And this one, never touched upon. Until one moment when he's fighting off the little girl, she reveals her face because she's wearing this bunny mask, because there's a thing of masks that's happening in this new one, which really doesn't make sense at all either, except for it's like a pagan thing, right? You know, and it's his wife's face, and she's talking about how she's burning in hell now because of what he did, and like implying that he buried his wife there and then had to kill her, right? But they don't really talk about that. What they did do that was different in the original, that was a really good nod to the original, was how Judge originally died in the original compared to this one. In the original, he goes upstairs to fight Gage, or to end Gage, because Gage is over there.
Right.
And he like crouches down at a bed, and Gage like gets him in his like basically his ankle where his like fucking tendon is, and then proceeds to stab and then chew on him. In this one, that bed scene is still kind of there, but this time he's got a gun instead of a pocket knife, which I don't know why Judd had a pocket knife and not a real knife. And he kicks the fucking bed, and the bed scoots across, and there's nothing there, right? You know, and it was kind of like a good nod of like, that was a stupid death in the original, right?
Yeah.
However, Judge comes back, and when he's going down the stairs, that's when he actually gets attacked and gets his tendon cut, just like in the original, and falls down and ends up with this whole scene of his death, right? So I did like those things. I just felt that halfway through the movie, I was like, why am I still watching this?
Hmm.
Isn't that scary? The writing's not that great. The actors are okay, but I still feel like they're lackluster in it. I still feel like it's missing a bunch of stuff. Like they had a bunch of cool ideas that they're trying to execute on, and it just wasn't happening. I would honestly say it's more of a renter movie than anything. If you really want to watch it, it still has some good visuals to it because it has modern day visuals for horror, which is nice. But all in all, I still think the original held up much better with its stupid plot lines of I'm going to be a dad that does this 3 times and fails than the modern day take of like the monsters are actually the ones that are doing that, which was a cool concept. That was a cool concept. I liked that concept in it. I just felt that the movie itself was poorly executed in like many forms.
And-
That's unfortunate.
Bonsai, remind me, was this part of the multiverse with Stephen King, or was this a one-off?
The only time, well, not the only time, the majority of the multiverse takes place in Dark Tower, and the Dark Tower more loosely alludes to everything being tied in. Then there are more instances of hinting at everything than there are specific things, though there are a lot of specific things. This was not one of the specific things that I can remember, though I am rereading the series and I'm about to do book 4 of 7. So in the first 3, it's definitely never mentioned. But
which is weird because I could see where this sour ground, where
I mean,
where
if
things are
anything,
sour could be a thing of consumption, right? Like just like Pennywise.
Pennywise, you actually run into a cousin of Pennywise, but he feeds off of laughter instead of fear in the Dark Tower, like directly. So we know what that species is directly and like where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
This just sounds more like a thin spot between dimensions and probably a demon from Gilead bled over.
Maybe
And possessed that land. That's like, if you're going to do a tie-in, that's the only tie-in I could see. But other than that, no.
Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, I never saw the original, and I had no reason to go see a remake, so yeah, I don't watch horror movies anymore. My wife is terrified of them, so
Your wife is terrified of non-horror movies.
it's true. She also doesn't like gore.
Well, honestly, this one's not really like either one's not really that gory. It just has a lot of suspense in the first
His
one.
wife was scared of Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, there were parts.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, my girlfriend, I live with this guy like that too. I still make her watch things. And it's fun.
Yeah, no.
It's fun for me.
I'm sure it is. Okay, so give it a rating.
Honestly, I'd give the new one probably like 2.5 or 3 out of Pet Cemeteries out of 5. It's really a renter, not a buyer.
Okay, and so is 5 the original?
The original would probably be about a 4.5.
Okay, so even the original doesn't get a full 5 Pet Cemeteries.
I can't look at the plot point of maybe this time will be different, but the hearts of men are stonier than the ground they dig. So that's a line from the movie.
Fair enough.
Okay. Did you write that down?
No, I actually
He
like that line.
memorized it. It's in his cranium.
It's tattooed across his penis now.
They fucking put that plot point across pretty hard in the first one.
Small font.
Penis wisdom. All right. So we are almost out of time here. We got about another 10 minutes. Bonsai, do you want to talk about something else? You want to go to MGN year?
I can do the very quick recap.
All right.
Yeah, do it.
Go on.
So we've never done these before, so I'm only gonna recap the most out of context as it can be. So we're just gonna do the final 6 episodes. We're doing 2 of them at once. So Game of Thrones. Basically, here is my recap for the first 2 episodes. We took a year-long break for this show for nothing to happen for the first 2 weeks out of 6 weeks, which have so many plot points to tie up and not enough goddamn time to tie them up. So a lot of these plot points are going to end with, and then that guy died. Because it's the only way for them to end this much shit in this amount of fucking time. The first 2 episodes, after waiting a year for this show to come back and finish with only 6 episodes for the entire season, the first episode is spent with everybody who hasn't legitimately. It's kind of a big deal when you get the scope of how long this has been. But I think it's a little longer than real time. I think it's been like 10 years or something in Westerosi time. But like some of these like siblings haven't seen each other in 10 years, didn't know if the other one was alive or dead. Nothing, right? Seeing each other again. But that's the whole episode. The whole episode is a bunch of people gathering at this one place to be like, well, this situation's fucked. And everybody's going, yep. Zombies. Yep. Chair. Yep. That's the first episode. Everybody's gathering up going, well, first we gotta fight those motherfuckers. Then we gotta turn around and fight those motherfuckers. Then the entire second episode is, so what are we gonna do about fighting these first motherfuckers? That's it. And it's actually most people's response to that are, oh, we're gonna die. That most everybody's response is like, oh, we're gonna lose. I mean, for sure this is gonna go poorly. And then there's like 5 people who are like, I don't know, we can probably do it, right? Like, we did a bunch of other stuff. We can probably do this. And then people mostly by the end of it came around to like, maybe. And then that's like most of them are at a solid maybe at this point. That is 2 hours of my life waiting for this show to get. Like, I'm not one of these like so invested, emotionally heartbreak. But you know me, I like a good story. I think it is, for the most part, a pretty well-written story that I'm just ready to be over. More than anything, I just want an ending. I don't really care. The whole thing can end because God farted and they all got washed off the face of that planet. Fine. At least it's done and we got an ending and we can all stick our thumbs up and bitch about it for the rest of forever.
Are the dragons there yet?
The dragons have been here. One of the dragons is a zombie dragon now. That was end of last season. They showed up with dragons to the zombie guy, like king of the ice zombies. So this whole thing is really everybody's fighting over a chair while the king of the ice zombies has amassed an army and marched towards them. And now he's there going like, guess who I'm going to kill? It's you. And everybody else is going like, oh man, we've been fighting over this chair. Now everybody who matters is dead. Whoops. That's the whole show up until the end of last season. Then the end of
to like take the chair.
No, we're still not at taking the chair. So we're still
no. The Zombie King. The Zombie King has to take the chair. That's why he's there.
I actually have a few people at work who like what? They're not even joking. They're like, no, this thing ends with that guy winning. The whole thing ends with the bad guy winning. I'm sure of it. I'm like, they don't actually know, but that's their opinion. Whole thing ends with that dude winning. We'll see. Either way, so these motherfuckers show up with dragons, and they're like, hey, ice zombie, dragons, fuck you. And he goes, ha, dragon. And he hucks a spear through the dragon's chest. And everybody's like, he can do that? And he's like, yeah, guess what? Resurrect dragon, zombie ice dragon. What now, bitch? And then he literally... He flies over their wall, because the whole time they've been like, well, we fucked around a lot, but at least we got that wall. And then he's like, nope, ice dragon, fuck your wall. And the dragon literally just goes like, slams a hole in the fucking wall. And they're like, guess what? Killing you. And then that's season 2 picks up with them going like, we're going to go ask that bitch to stop fighting for a chair and help us fight zombies. And she's like, I'll help. Wink. Not really going to help. So they march off, and they're like, we're going to go fight. Hey, where's that bitch's army? And she's like, yeah, I'm not sending that. And then her brother shows up, and he's like, yeah, she's not sending that. And so they're like, okay, we'll kill this guy, then we'll kill her. And that's where we're at. So now they're going to try and kill this guy. That's not going to go well.
Wow. Okay.
That's where it shows at. That's literally, you can probably start watching this season. Of course, you'll miss the little bits. You'll be like, who are those guys? Doesn't matter. Most of them are going to die. All you need to know is there's a bunch of people with feelings and political drama who now got to fight an ice zombie so one motherfucker can sit on a chair.
All right. I have a prediction, and I've never watched this fucking show.
Do it.
This season's going to end on a cliffhanger. And they're going to finish it off with a movie.
No, they've already confirmed that's not going to happen. But
I do never underestimate the power of greed and HBO wanting to make more money off of this.
It's already over. Like, they've already shot the ending. The cast has already said, like, we know how this ends. It is over.
Yeah, but then again, there was Scrubs.
Then there'll be this Spear.
There was the last season of Scrubs.
There
so.
already is a spin-off series in the work, but it's a prequel. It makes sense for a prequel. The whole thing starts with them dethroning the books start with. It's not even true. There was a point in time where all the characters who matter fought in a different war, and it was a war to dethrone the king.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I watched until Joffrey died. I know.
That's probably what the prequel is about.
That war.
Probably.
Are we going to see them to collect the 9 or whatever, or go around the 9?
Probably.
That'd be cool.
I don't think we have any details on it yet. I don't think they get started filming.
Well, if they don't start off with them going around like collecting all the 9, I don't want to fucking watch it.
When did they get the One Ring? I'm confused.
No, it wasn't. It was them
that's-
going around fucking a girl from each of the kingdoms. That was called collecting the 9 to them. I remember that from that show. I was like, that sounds pretty fun.
Go that guy.
Yeah, all I know is what is it? Sean Bean was in this, and he dies.
For a season.
And he dies.
People made such a big deal about him. And there's 8 seasons of this show. He's in one of them.
Well, yeah, because anything he's in, he has to die.
Which is great. No sequels.
So, how much panic do you think HBO is in now because they got nothing to replace the show with?
None.
Like, what else do they have?
Silicon Valley's doing okay for them. Ballers is doing okay for them. But they have this spin-off series in the works. And are they the ones doing Wild Cards, or is Amazon doing Wild Cards?
Oh, I don't know. But
Actually, I don't think it's HBO, because I think he was sort of not allowed to work on it. Hulu's developing Wild Cards. Wild Cards going to be good, damn it. I refuse to believe it's not, so...
But yeah, no, I just wonder what HBO is going to do. I don't know if a spin-off series is going to work out.
They're working on more than one. You're welcome.
Great. All right, yeah, let's do this till the fucking end and death. But yeah,
like every other franchise.
Yeah, no, it's cool. By the way, New Men in Black in summer.
I'm actually interested. I think it looks good.
Yeah, same here. Surprise.
I can't wait for the new Mandalore series.
I think it looks good.
Oh, that's right. I did see the preview.
Mandalorian.
Sorry, it's called The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
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 He means Mandalore, like the head of the Mandalorians, I think.
That's what he's going to try to be.
The Mandalorians are dead by this point. This takes place during the events of episode 4, if I remember right. I saw a thing on it.
So
this is taking place like during a known point in time. Mandalorians are dead.
It's not. They're not the originals anymore. It hasn't been the originals for like 5,000 years.
Yeah. The
I thought it was taking
originals
place on Tatooine, if I remember right.
Well, the originals, no.
Because they're bounty hunters. Most Mandalorians are bounty hunters in some form. There is a government called Mandalore, and they do have a whole thing. And they
but are you you're using old canon, man?
No, they have it in Rebels.
Okay.
It's not old canon.
Okay, just making sure.
They have peoples. They
Also-
follow the core, like the Mandalorian code. They have a whole thing. Trust me, I'm informed.
Also,
All right.
fuck new canon mostly.
I like new canon.
I don't like that they're just saying like all this other shit just doesn't count anymore. I'm like, get the fuck out.
Because they can't use it legally. They have to say that.
Yeah.
Legally, they
I
have.
understand why.
They don't have to
understand
say
why
that.
they're
I mean,
doing
Yes,
it.
they do.
Fine.
it's the same thing that they're doing with these other things. They like to keep everything fucking in house. It's the same reason they canceled that FX show. They just
If they use anything from those other works, they owe those people money.
Well,
It's not a good business model to use it.
They can reference stuff. They just can't use characters.
To talk about a whole, like, even if you're mentioning a species that guy created, you're using his species. If you're saying it's part of your world, unless you're saying, like, the most you could say, like, oh, that guy's of the species, and then you walk away. But if you're talking about a chunk of history that they were in,
I thought I was under the impression that Lucas wasn't very loose with this stuff, and he kept like, yeah, he would have to specifically authorize things to be thrown into
authorized
the lore.
it, but you still have to pay the guy who created it. They own those works.
Well, either way, how much money they're
not
making,
DC.
they can dish out a little bit. Oh yeah, I read that article. We don't have time to talk about that, but we should later on.
Oh, so it's between 6 and 7. 5 years after Return of the Jedi. While the New Republic emerges to restore order to a fractured galaxy, there are still many systems outside of its jurisdiction, more commonly referred to as the Outer Rim territories. These lawless planets will likely serve as the setting here. Think of the Wild West of the Star Wars galaxy.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna get to see
But
Firefly.
the
all over
Mandalorian
again.
was still around. They were never really wiped out during the whole galactic conquest of everything. Matter of fact, they bowed to the Empire at one point. That was the whole plot point. So they survived. So there's plenty of
Okay.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, because in old EU, the Jedi basically
Yeah.
wiped them off the fucking face of the planet.
Well, yeah, they were scattered for a long time. And the Mandalorians that became the Mandalorians after that in the old EU was that they were like basically just other people that followed that, and they just kind of like indoctrinated them into it.
Yeah, it's the same.
Bloodline
Like
stuff was
it's
scattered.
the same thing with the Sith. There's the Sith race and there's Sith Order. The
Yeah.
Sith race is gone.
Yeah.
They all done been murdered. All right. Anyways, that brings us to the end of today's episode.
That.
Hey,
Klops, final words.
I just did them.
Those weren't words. Okay, his final words was, "I just did them." Bonsai,
he just did them.
and you watched? That's weird. Bye.
Bye.
You can't tell him what he's